Hey guys,
Hey guys, Beth Sotelo and Joe Gomez here.
how you guys doing? We're here today to do a Blick live stream takeover. We're going to do a sketch demo. We're going to try and use composition and lighting to help create kind of a spooky, atmospheric, Halloween kind of themed drawing. So Beth and I will be joining our powers to create this original piece of art. Going to be inspired by the classic Frankenstein tale. So we made sure to pull up enough reference. Beth watched the movie, The Bride of Frankenstein, and so we're really excited to bring some of that kind of energy and spookiness to this kind of art demo that we're doing today. We'll probably get started here momentarily.
Joel's gonna start off with the layouts, and then I'll jump in later with my little Grump characters as the actors in the scene, and a little bit of color with Blick's new markers.
Yeah, so we're going to try those things out and show you how we go about using our specific products or mark making tools that we enjoy using, just to give you an idea of how we go about using them to create this type of setting and illustration. So let's get started. What I'll do first is I'll show you really quickly. Beth and I had discussed this a couple days ago, and we were kind of playing around with the idea of what exactly would be a great composition for this to kind of let us play in the way that we do. Like, I'm going to be doing most of the environment and the all of the lab equipment and whatnot, and Beth's characters will be portraying the characters in the movie. So we'll have Dr. Frankenstein, we'll have the bride, and I think we'll also have Frankenstein in there as well. So, and in doing that, we kind of had set the image up. So what I do with something like that is we'll create like a quick thumbnail layout. And, it's more just to create or communicate the idea that we're trying to get across. And so in doing that, it isn't so much about how it looks, more as where it is in the place of the composition. And so we kind of went with a portrait style orientation because of the dramatic angle. We thought that would play really well in conjunction with the spooky, eerie vibe of the laboratory. So let me get started. I'm going to go ahead and get going on this layout. You guys can kind of see, we'll get the overhead shot of the desktop here so you can kind of get a sense of what we're going for. And in using that, you'll see the layout here that I had in mind, and we have these represent the little characters that will be in our shot. The infamous gurney or the bed, Frankenstein, and all the lab equipment. And we have a couple of shelving things that will have beakers and all kinds of test tubes and scientific equipment in the foreground to kind of push the viewer into the background. So using this as my template, I'm going to go ahead and get started and start filling in some of the details for this shot, just roughly in the layout. Now, in doing so, I also pulled up reference at the time, poorly printed out, but it's enough for me to get a sense of what I'm trying to accomplish in the image. So some of the objects that were found in the actual laboratory, I'll use as reference for this image, but I may add some of my own too, just to beef it up or to really amplify the tone or the eeriness of the whole thing. So yeah, let me get started. We'll get going right now here. Here. Yeah, Beth and I are both comic book artists. Beth is a freelance colorist, and she also does her own graphic novel called Grumps. And I am a comic book illustrator who works on a series called La Muerta, published by Coffin Comics. I've been drawing that book since 2015, I want to say. So yeah, I've been working with those guys on their property, La Muerta, kind of a crime noir, kind of a edgy, supernatural, Mexican American themed crime noir. So let's see here. So quickly, just trying to rough in the shapes I want to use, specifically like all the equipment that I want to put to give the sense that you're in Frankenstein's laboratory, right? And I'll use a lot of the stuff from shots from the film itself to really give you that impression, Nothing better than having the actual things that are seen in the film in the drawing. And that's the coolest thing about this idea with the using this illustration to express how composition and lighting can kind of create a mood or a tone in your work, your art, anything really. And the idea being, when you're watching, a specific kind of film, let's say a genre film or whatnot, they'll immediately use these tools that we're going to show you in this particular drawing. They'll immediately use those types of tools to create this sense of mood or this tone to the story before anything ever even really happens. And it only helps to set those things up and give the viewer or the reader an idea of what kind of story they're about to witness or partake in. And so using lighting and composition can immediately make the viewer or reader completely aware of what kind of thing they're about to enjoy. So it's kind of neat in a sense. You get a sense, okay, this is going to be spooky. There's a lot of really dramatic lighting and a lot of long stretched out shadows and whatnot. So those kinds of things are important to set the table, so to speak. And that really gives people a sense of what they're about to witness or enjoy. Yeah. So in the foreground I have these two shelves, and I'm just putting, right now they're really just rough shapes, but the idea being that I want them to be maybe scientific equipment. Maybe there's some jars holding some sort of, I don't know, crazy body parts in, like formaldehyde or something. Maybe some beakers with some acidic fluids in them, things like this. Just to really, again, set that tone that we're talking about in regards to how these things create mood, Okay, so I've loosely placed in a bunch of shapes that I think best reflect what I'm trying to put in this image. So I'm going to go ahead and start inking these up. And for me, a lot of times laying things out or penciling them in is only part of the drawing. For me, sometimes inking is the finishing of the drawing. I work in a way where a lot of times I will just kind of use the penciling stage to place things or block things in so that later I can go in and finish the drawing with ink. So that's what we're going to start doing now. I'm not going literal with the reference I have here. Like, I see what I'm pulling from the photo, but I'm not putting it in the exact same place that it is in the photo. I mean, I'm moving it around, and I'm kind of like being inspired with it as opposed to being a slave to the reference. In comics, a lot of times that's a big help in knowing how to use reference, because a lot of times you'll have to draw cars or places or objects that are very specific in nature, and sometimes you'll need to photo reference that thing, and a lot of times you don't want to draw the photo as is or trace it or copy it or whatever. You want to give it a slight turn, or even cartoon it for that matter.
Shanlin Martinez would like to know what kind of pencil you're using.
Oh, I am using it's a Sumo Grip lead holder. It's a 07. I use two different types of pencils. Like, I use a lead holder that just kind of, you buy the lead and you kind of it has a little pincher there at the end. I use it as like a blunt instrument, and the reason for this is because when I'm laying things out, I'll just chunk away at it. It's like an axe, and I'll just like, it almost forces me to avoid details, and so I deliberately use that specific pencil so that I don't get caught up in details, because I have a habit of doing that. So I'll go in with this chunk guy, this lead holder, and I deliberately will not sharpen it just so that it keeps me from doing that. And then when I'm ready and I think I'm a little more crisp on what I got an idea for, I'll go in with the lead holder, which is a much finer point lead, and it's a technical pencil. But the reasoning behind it is this is a much more clean, crisp line, and this lets me say, okay, I've gone in with this, blunt object. I now know I can go in and finesse some of these lines. It's in a lot of ways, it's like, for lack of a better description, it's like sculpting, but with pens and paper. And the idea being that the larger the object that you're chunking away at, you're taking away the bigger pieces of the marble as you're revealing the form underneath. And as you get closer to the form, your tools get thinner or more fine, I should say, because you're not needing to chunk away at certain things. You now have the form. You maybe now have a pose, and you understand the structure of the particular thing. Maybe it's an arm, maybe it's a torso shot, but you have the specifics in mind, and now you're just finessing those lines. And just for me, as a way of not jumping in too early, I'll use the lead holder with the non-sharpened point, just to kind of start away at the gesture of something. Now I'm doing these ellipses, and they're not the cleanest, crisp ellipses, but I'll fix them when I ink them up more. I'm just trying to get their placement in the ink, and my laboratory is going to have a lot of wear and tear, and it's not going to be new. I like giving things a sense of use, and I think it's because ever since I've watched Star Wars as a kid, all the ships and everything were kind of dinged up and dented, and it's like, and today you go out and to the market, how many of the cars in the parking lot are dented up, or got some schmutz on them, some mud flaps all muddy, or scratch here or there, and those things end up giving character to the car. In a sense, you see a car with a lot of dents and scratches, you're like, ooh, maybe we won't park too close to that car, But I mean, that's the reality that gives these objects personality. These inanimate objects can start to get a sense of character based on what you see, and it's like you can almost feel like, man, that car's been through a lot of stuff. So I'm using that principle to do that with my equipment here in the laboratory. Yeah, and if you guys have any questions, ask away. I'll gladly answer them as I'm drawing. From tools to, if you have specifics as to, how to approach something, ask away, and I'll gladly answer as best I can. And here I'm using an 05 Pigma Micron. I love using the Pigma Microns for my comic book illustration. I love to keep even the older Pigma Microns around, where the nibs become a little less, they're more flexible and they've been kind of worn down. They create an interesting line quality that you can't really mimic, and so I think it kind of helps add character to the line. And sometimes if I look at a drawing, I can sometimes tell, like, oh, this is all tack pen, or oh, this person used all brush, and sometimes when you mix it up, it's cool, because then you can't really tell, you can't put your finger on what it is that they used, and sometimes that line quality is what makes or gives it the uniqueness to it, that adds to the flavor of the drawing itself. So those things are kind of neat. They can add to a lot of what the characters or the environment is about. It's very quickly just bouncing around, trying to make sure I get some objects in each location. That way I know how much I need to put in, or how small or how big. A lot of times you want to create the illusion of detail and depth. You don't want to have to put as much work into it, so there's tricks to it, and those things kind of help create that illusion that you're going for. And that's the cool thing about it, working in analog, drawing by hand, is that these things, the more quickly you can play around with these tools and master a few of them, it almost becomes like mastering a magic trick, and so it's kind of neat when you can sit down with a piece of paper, a pen, a marker, or a pencil, and create that sense of awe or wonder, wow, that just came out of your head, and if you can do that, create three-dimensional objects on a two-dimensional surface, that's amazing. And when you add the idea of story or intent to communicate or express an idea, that's even more amazing. So it's a cool thing to try and juggle.
For the latecomers to the live stream, let them know what you're drawing again.
Oh, I am drawing a spooky-inspired Halloween illustration. We're using Frankenstein, or the theme of Frankenstein and the Bride, to depict this image, using light and composition as our study to create the creepy mood.
Shannon has another question. Do you use watercolor?
I do. I use watercolor kind of infrequently on different things. I'm completely analog, so I can't. I maybe use Photoshop to adjust the levels on an illustration or something. I'm completely I just have no patience for a computer for some reason. But yes, I because I am mostly analog, I'll be using markers, color pencils, maybe both, sometimes with watercolor, and I bounce around from different mediums to try and create a unique kind of style or look to certain illustrations.
Tamara would like to know if you chose a focal point.
I did actually. See, what I'm doing here is I've created these buildings, or I'm sorry, these shelves have a vanishing point that kind of goes down to the center here, and I thought I'm using a shadowy kind of thing here that I'll fill in with black in a little bit, and this is going to frame all of our devices here and also kind of bring the viewer right into where our main characters will be. So I'm using the idea of perspective, a forced perspective, so to speak, to pull the reader's eye, hopefully, towards the characters themselves. So, yeah, it'll be neat. Let's see what we can pull off. I'm going to start filling in some of this black area up top because I don't want to get pressed for time. So let me get going on that.
Jelger says he prefers analog art over digital art.
Hey, Jelger, how are you, man? What time is it for you right now? I know, there's like a 3-minute delay, so yeah.
And Scott Phelps gives you the devil horns. Hey, Joel.
Hey, what's up, Scott? That's so cool. A lot of my Coffin Comics friends are joining us for this stream. It's pretty fun.
Elaine Bishop says, hey, I made it.
Hey, Elaine. See, already you can start seeing how like the black in this image is already creating like this really crisp thing to happen.
Michelle Jenkins asks, what about the brush pen? What brand?
What brand? These are the Pigma, I think the Pigma Pro Series brush pens. Yeah, I love using these as well. They're pretty nimble. The tip it has a lot of bounce to it, so it doesn't get funky and flat. You can get a lot of dexterity from the tip itself. These are great pens for on the go. I use regularly brush pens that you can refill the barrels with India ink or whatever, but on the go, these are fantastic. I love using them when I'm outside sketching or on the run or at a convention when we used to have conventions. But yeah, so these are great pens, and I love using these, especially on the toned Strathmore paper. It works pretty great.
Jelger says 11:22.
In the PM or the AM?
PM.
PM. Oh, look at you staying up late. Hopefully you guys have nice weather right now. Jelger is a Coffin Comics fan that I've met, and he's a really cool guy. I want to say in the Netherlands. And I always interact with him on Facebook, so it's pretty neat that he's joining us here today.
Rachel would like to know what Colonel's going to be for Halloween.
Ha! He's going to be stuffed because he's going to be eating all the candy everybody brings.
Oh, no.
Yeah, Colonel, he's a little spicy. It's weird, like he's always got a lot to say as a winter dog, and so happy, mad, glad, sad, he's just always barking. He's talks. Talk. All right, so I use this diamond shape to try and, again, bring a focal point to what the point of interest is in this particular image. And so I'm trying to move quickly so we give enough time for all the parts that are needed. We're going to need to do the figures and ink up more of these elements in the foreground and the background, so I get caught up talking too much, and I have to also be drawing at the same time. So yeah, again, I think the main thing is to pull off an image successfully is to reference the thing that you're trying to do and look at objects that kind of give you a sense of the feeling you're going for. And with this, again, we're going with the creepy, moody Halloween kind of theme or vibe. So we wanted dramatic lighting. Beth went with the theme of The Bride, or Frankenstein's Bride. I was trying to think of what was my favorite Frankenstein movie or a monster movie that I'd seen, and you kind of always go back to the classics. I mean, there's been remakes of this thing, I guess, but there's something that you lose in those remakes that wasn't the original. And even though the original is so old and such a specific look, it also is the aesthetic, the quality of it. Like when you think of those Frankenstein movies, that's exactly what you think of, is that aesthetic to it, that old time feel to it, the black and white, the big sets with the castle miniature in the background. Like, that stuff's cool. It's very, they don't make films like that anymore. So that alone gives it us like an identity, like it's almost like a brand in itself, you know. Sorry, I got to turn this a little bit. I'm gonna build this floor up. I kind of made this raised platform so that it actually feels like they're above a certain area. Like maybe this platform raises up high towards where the weather is affecting them, and they can get the lightning to, you know, hit these contraptions and equipment as well as the bed maybe. Again, I wasn't completely married to the reference that I have, that I printed out. I wanted to use it as a starting point to really get the drawing going, because I don't want to be married to it. You want to kind of bring your own flavors to the concept, so that it isn't just like a recreation. It's a unique take on the creation. How are we doing time-wise?
It is 2:30 just about, so I'm ready to tag in.
Yeah. So what I could do is you could tag in. I left enough room for your figures, and then if you need me, I can come back after and do the more details on the background.
Yeah.
Okay. Yay! All right, so I'm gonna switch over and I'll be toggling on the cameras and stuff, so you guys can ask Beth questions if you need to.
Hey guys. All right. I'm here to mess up all the beautiful work. Well, my name's Beth Sotelo. I've actually been in the comic industry since around 2002. Started off as a colorist, and recently I've been doing my own graphic novel, and I've been enjoying joining in on stuff like this, collaborative pieces with Joel Gomez. So we chose something appropriate for the holiday, the Bride of Frankenstein. So it is my job to add the characters to the mix here. And I know he touched a little bit about, or he touched on reference a little bit, and I have like my own reference kind of thing that I noticed that happened to me, and it reminded me of, it's not just about collecting reference, but the quality of the reference. When I first started looking for reference for this bride, I did a Google search, and it was like the same 5 pictures or something that came up. So this is like my first attempt. It's kind of a quick sketch exploring like how would I draw these characters, like the Bride of Frankenstein, but as my own characters. So the first attempt was alright, but I felt like I know I'm missing something, so I went ahead and I dropped the $4 on Amazon Prime to actually watch the movie. And I realized why there was only 4 pictures of the bride, because she only shows up in the last 5 minutes of the movie. But it gave me a greater understanding for the character, so I drew something that was a lot better because I had a better understanding of who the character was. And like she had this cool moment where she recoils and she actually hisses at the Frankenstein's monster. I felt so bad for everybody involved, but it was having more complete reference and understanding the character made for a better drawing. And this one was actually done with some Winsor Newton watercolor. Actually, for the first time, I used some water-soluble graphite, and rather than using water, I just kind of used a loose kind of, or a diluted wash of watercolor than just water, and just to see what would happen. And I figured if I messed it up, that's just for me, and no one's gonna see it anyways. But it was actually kind of cute. So that's the story of the okay reference and better reference, and also a little practice, I guess. But all right, let's see what I can do here. So I will be using, I have, it's kind of the star of the show here. I don't know if this is going to focus or not.
The other one was better.
Oh, this one's better?
Mm-hmm.
Blick has some brand new markers, and they're actually really cool, and they keep adding more colors, so I was really excited to use these. I actually have used Copic a bunch of times, but they're just as good. So it's like, and they're less expensive, so why not?
They're great.
Yeah, we like them a lot.
Yeah, we like using those markers. We love your shirt, Beth.
Ah, thank you. I got it for conventions, so I guess I'll just show you guys from the comfort of my own home instead. But yeah, I bought 2 of these since I figured I'll just kind of represent my book and my characters, and thank you very much. All right.
This is an awesome collab.
Yay! This is one of my favorite pencils, probably because it's orange, but it's
a little higher up.
Oop, how's that?
Good. That's good. That's great.
All right, it's the KuruToga, and what it does, it has this pivoting action, so it never gets that real sharp point from just carving into the paper over and over again. It rotates the lead little by little. It's I don't know if I care, but I like it because it's orange. All right. So I'm going to put the bride here, kind of like in a pose that I practiced. And I'm just going to kind of work in, avoid the elements that Joel already added to the piece, but it's not going to be perfect, and that's okay. It's just, it's more of like a feeling for the scene as a whole. That's another thing I noticed was when I watched the movie, her hair isn't like some cone. It's from all the reference, I thought it was just like this cone thing with the zigzag, and it's actually this like this flared out cylinder. It was supposed to remind people, or the designer had this headdress in mind when he designed her, but I thought that was interesting. I'm like, I messed it all up for the first time, but
Dwight Maskew says, heck yeah, those auto-rotating pencils are so sweet.
yeah, I like it. The orange is rubbing off.
Who inspired you to get started making art?
You know what? It was, I think what happens with kids is they get pulled away from art because all kids kind of start liking to draw, but maybe some aren't as good at it, so they just get distracted and do something else. And those of us who stayed in it had like a like for it and an inclination for it. And basically, it was the thing in school that I wasn't going to get in trouble for. Like, I didn't know how to, add or subtract, and my spelling was bad, but I knew how to draw, so Miss Marcia wasn't going to poke me in the head for not drawing something right, because I had that down. So I just stayed the path, and I think I'm kind of stubborn, so when things, like, I never felt the need to get a real job. I figured, no, I'm going to follow this art career. I didn't know what I wanted to be. I thought maybe I would have been a graphic designer or something, but it was because that's the only word I knew, I think, about art careers. But yeah, it's just a matter of sticking with it through all the failures, because as you get out of high school and you start working with other professionals, all of a sudden you're not in the top 3 anymore, so you just still have to stick it out and understand that you need to take your lumps and use these opportunities when you meet all these professionals who are so good. You learn from them. So it's just kind of it's still a continuing journey. So I don't really know how I ended up here, but I think I like it a lot. So yeah, lucky.
Kimberly O'Brien says, that's why I foster drawing and art in my grandchildren.
Yeah, good. It's good. I had placed no value in it all through school, and then I chose drama over art, and my art teacher actually called my mom and said, like, why did you take her out of art? And I was like, oh, I guess it's a thing, so maybe I should take it as seriously as Mr. Samuels took it. I'm not really like a horror movie buff or anything, but I have this weird thing where when I was little, my mom said, you're going to get scared, don't watch that. She didn't say she didn't forbid me from watching it, but more of like if you get scared, you're on your own. So I made it my goal to not get scared, so I would watch things on repeat. Like I had Poltergeist memorized from beginning to end, all because I didn't want to be scared, so I had to get used to all those scary elements of it.
Dwight Maskew says, was there a turning point when you realized this was your career?
I don't think there was a turning point. I think I was like a horse with blinders, and it could have been falling apart all around me, and I wouldn't have noticed because I was just determined to follow the path. And I never had a ton of bills or anything. I didn't have a lot of stuff I needed to pay for, so I didn't have to make a ton of money, so I could afford to explore and really focus on getting better. And still, I don't feel like I've made it or I'm some sort of professional. I'm still trying to figure all this out. But yeah, there was no turning point. Just a blind. That's actually my best given talent is just how stubborn I am, because it's gotten me through a lot of potential give up moments where I was just like, no, we're gonna keep going.
Dwight Maskew says, that question is for both of you. I would say the same, Dwight. I definitely stubbornness. The fact that it just fascinated me to be able to draw on a regular basis. It's just, I never felt overwhelmed or like I could just spend hours doing it, and at its toughest times you were always learning a lot of stuff, and as you got older and kept at it, you would plateau and hit levels where you would master a couple of small things that made learning other new things that much easier, because you knew you kind of already had a couple of things you were proficient at or you were decent enough at. Learning how to make three-dimensional objects on paper, it can be satisfying, as I had said earlier. So it makes it easier once you're having to, combine it with the ideas of composition and proper lighting. And it's almost, I liken it to being like a magician, in the sense that you're able to just kind of make something out of nothing, so to speak. But it's more than nothing. I mean, it's a memorization in your mind of poses and lighting and how things, how light goes around form. And so there's a lot of memorization of those things, and then also using actual reference in conjunction to that idea to kind of, build these concepts or stories that you're trying to come across. Love it. Just keep at it, he says. Kimberly O'Brien says, I think sometimes parents inadvertently overcompensate by throwing so many choices of interest at children instead of going all in on their personality-driven preferences. Yeah, I can see that. Penny Kaufman says, enjoying this session quite a lot. Thank you to the artist and Blick. Thank you, Penny. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Penny.
That's what it was.
Oh, cool. This one is Sakura's Pigma Micron pen, PN. I don't know why I like these so much. They have like this really smooth kind of writing tip. Yeah, they're just kind of a nice flow to them. They seem to withstand. They're actually water based, so they're not for alcohol based markers, which is what Blick is. Alcohol based usually could use like something that's made for that, but these are okay as long as, especially with this, it's more of a dark and kind of gritty. So if the colors pull some of the black, it's not the end of the world. So I guess on a case by case basis, you have to choose the right tool for what you're doing. So this will work okay. She has all this frizzy hair. I know a little bit about that.
Michael Kubik says, working as an actor and makeup artist, Frankenstein's creature has been an inspiration for years. I really appreciate the visual approach with this par work. The concept is super fun, says Kristen Belts.
Thank you. I thought it was funny in The Bride of Frankenstein. It was mostly about Frankenstein's monster in the beginning, and he meets a blind guy who isn't put off by the look of Frankenstein's monster. So they become friends, and the first thing they teach the monster is, this is wine, this is smoking, good, wine, good. And it just made me laugh for some reason. It's like, all right, I guess the important things always come through. All right, so I'm going to be a little more definitive with some of these lines. I kind of just scribbled them in. Make them a little darker before I start putting some tone with the markers. And with the markers, my intent, I only picked 2 colors because I didn't want to get super rendery. I like the markers best when they're used as some sort of mid-tone kind of highlight accent kind of thing going on. And the more colors, if I try to illustrate something with markers and do something that's more realistic, it doesn't come off as good for whatever reason. I've seen people do a great job where they use this dappling technique to get the markers to look real painterly, but I end up just kind of flattening things out. So I'm just going to use it as kind of an accent thing here in a second. But yeah, we have this new set of Blick markers. I had to buy a marker wallet for it, and so I have all the choices in the world of what to use, and I picked these 2 colors. But I think it's good. I don't think starting out, because markers could be a big investment if you're trying to be a completist or something, but you don't really have to buy like 300 markers. Get a set of grays, because you can do some really nice tonal stuff that'll enhance the few colors you do choose, and pick some of your favorite colors that you can use as like an accent mid-tone kind of thing. And then you just go from there. You build your collection around a couple of staples, and before you know it, you'll have a full wallet. An empty real wallet, a full marker wallet.
Tatiana Cass says, what we use for the black background? That would be the Sakura Pigma brush pens, the Pro Series brush pens. Yeah, those are the ones we used for the backgrounds and for all of the black on the toned paper there. Cindy Patton says, we call that full set syndrome, owning it all, LOL.
Yeah.
That's true.
I've chased that. I'm going to start with the lighter of the 2 colors I picked. And just, Blick has, I don't know how many colors total they have, but there's enough to keep you busy for a while. There's the brush pen, the brush tip side, like you're familiar with, and the chisel side. So this is the darker of the 2 colors I picked. What do I got here? Washed denim and eggplant. I'm going to start with the lighter one.
Kimberly O'Brien says, my granddaughter is going to love her stocking come Christmas.
Yep.
Edie Evans Brisby says, love the whimsicality. Is that a word? I think it is a word.
You just made it up. You just made it one. Whimsicality.
That's a good word, Edie. I like that.
So I'm gonna go with the assumption that the light, the direction of light is gonna be coming from up on this side here, and then do the shadows on this side.
Tatiana asks, what kind of paper is being used? Marker paper?
No, I don't think either of us tend to get marker paper. We'll just use either Bristol or in this case, it's this you can get at Blick too. It's Strathmore toned gray. It's a spiral book, and it comes in a bunch of different sizes. So this one's 11 by 14, and it's just kind of. Joel likes to pick this up because it creates an automatic mid-tone.
Yes. So
you put your darks, something for, fun colors, and then when you start using like white jelly rolls or whiteout or some sort of just white paint or something, that'll pop out really strong as a highlight. So as a lot of the work is done for you, and I know he and a lot of other comic book artists really like to start off with this kind of tone paper. I'm going to leave a lot of blank area here. I don't want to just saturate her in color. It's just supposed to be hints of, just to give everything some depth.
Yeah, looks good. Recommend a drawing pencil set for me. My 16-year-old granddaughter is amazing with her drawing. She's busy with Faces in Nature currently. I can recommend some.
Yeah, also, Sakura has a Sensei anime set. And it has a mechanical pencil. It has a couple of grays, I believe, included, and an eraser as well. And I like them. And not markers, probably like Micron style pens. And I choose those sometimes. I like them a lot. So it's a nice little quickie set to get for get a lot of bang for your buck.
Yeah, I think Blick carries a Sakura brand pencil set. It comes with pens and a technical pencil as well, I think.
Okay. Just throw some shadows under this little bed pillow thing here. And save the darkest of the shadow color here on the bottom, just to keep the value, some separation from these values I'm trying to create.
Kristen Belt says Microns are amazing. I like the PN so I don't mash the tip.
Yeah, PN. Look at that. Maybe that's what I like about it. I'm too mashy. All right, we just have a couple more minutes here. I'm going to quickly put in some of these little highlights following the light source, which is up here somewhere. And again, not too much because I just don't want it to be distracting. Just to pop her from the tonal paper.
Eugene Burton says, I really like this.
Thank you. It's fun to collaborate with Joel because our styles aren't really the same, and it's just fun to try to see what we can put together as a team, and it's been fun so far.
What do the two of you use for inspiration at this time? Mine's a little weak.
Yeah, it's like a weird time, so sometimes inspiration can be hard to come by, but I think actually Joel got me hooked on this podcast, the Teen Deacons. It's Roger Deakins and his wife James Deakins, and even though they're not talking about comics and they actually probably don't like comic book movies, the way they talk about their craft and like the passion and the detail, it kind of makes me think about my own job and my own work and think I want to reach those levels of expertise and perfection. And all the same with all the guests that they have on. They all have this same sort of, they're driven to create something really good and not follow the norm. And it has nothing to do with comics, but it something about it feeds this creative kind of instinct that maybe I need to hear that to kind of get going myself.
Nice drawing. Amazed at art supplies these days. Old schooler here.
Yeah.
Chantel Schuer. Amazing effect with skill and little bit of well-placed color. Kimberly O'Brien says.
Yeah, I'm going to have to call this one done on my end and have you come in and do some focusing.
Do some real quick. I got a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Cindy Patton says, love this. You've complimented each other well in this piece.
Yay. Hold on, I forgot that one. That one. All right.
Perfect. All right, sorry guys. So what I'm going to do is I was on the other side and I was looking at this drawing from a different perspective and I saw some places I thought I could add shadow to help out really quick. I got like a couple minutes, so I'm going to try and spruce it up as best as I can with where I missed my previous background stuff. Let's see here. And then I'm going to grab one of my trusty things that I love using. Last time people were making fun of me, but I don't care because
chart pack.
my chart pack markers. I love using my chart packs.
Oh, smell-o-vision.
There's like these old school markers that they really smell like stinky old markers, but I just love the value I get from these guys. So I realized I very quickly needed to drop in some shadows and stuff real fast. Sometimes these things, they need a little quick pass just to help make some pop, you know? And so I thought that could help. Because you don't want everything having the same value so that everything can separate. You want to have different values in different places really give a sense of lighting.
Michelle used those in the 80s.
Yeah, that's chart pack markers, man. They're crazy. So in this way, this is kind of the last little effect to help kind of just add a little layer of pop to the drawing, you know. Keep the eye where we want it to go, which is towards these characters, you know. And then I'll do one last thing that is kind of improvised. Just add a little bit of lightning to the piece, create the tension that's happening amongst the characters, and touch up Beth's doctor. All right. How's it look on the screen?
Looks good. All right, let me switch to our faces.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's what we have time for.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, guys. We try to get in a piece as quickly as we could that kind of reflected the qualities we wanted to convey today, which is the lighting and composition to help create a mood or atmosphere to your piece. And for this particular theme being Halloween, we kind of went with the spooky vibe, Bride of Frankenstein thing. Hopefully you got to learn a little bit about what the tools we like to use and how we go about using them.
The markers are great.
Yeah, those markers are awesome.
Try a couple of them out. You won't find anything wrong with them.
Yeah, they're fantastic. Hopefully we get to do this again with you guys in the near future. Thanks again for Blick for inviting us to do a Facebook streaming event with you guys. And if there's something specific as far as a drawing tool you'd like to see us practice with or like to learn more about that Blick carries, we will certainly be happy to try and implement that into a drawing just to get you some information and get a little bit more feedback on something you may want as a product. Who knows? So thanks again, guys. Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
And
besthotel.com if you want to reach out with more questions.
Yep.
JoelGomez.net.
Yep.
We're always around if you need something answered.
yeah, just let us know. We're around and we'll be glad to help. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.